Motivation always leaves. Focus doesn't, if you understand why. Most people don't notice it at first. They just feel tired of starting over. One week you wake up early. You feel driven. You promise yourself, this time it's different. You clean your desk. You plan your schedule. You feel motivated. And then, quietly, a few days later, it's gone. Nothing dramatic happens. No failure, no big mistake. You just stop. You wake up and the same tasks feel heavier. The same goals feel distant. And you start asking a painful question most people never say out loud. What's wrong with me? In the United States, we grow up hearing that motivation is the fuel of success. Athletes talk about it. Entrepreneurs post about it. Self-help books sell it as the missing ingredient. If you're not moving forward, people say you don't want it enough. That belief quietly hurts millions. But that idea is quietly damaging millions of people. Because the problem was never your desire. It was the way you were taught to rely on motivation in the first place. Think about how motivation actually shows up in your life. It's emotional. It's unpredictable. It spikes when something feels new, inspiring, or urgent. You feel motivated after watching a powerful video, after hearing a success story, after imagining a better version of yourself. But motivation doesn't come from discipline. It comes from emotion. And emotions, by design, are temporary. The human brain is built to conserve energy. In psychology, this is basic survival wiring. Your brain constantly asks one silent question. Is this worth the effort right now? Motivation temporarily overrides that question. It floods the brain with dopamine, the chemical of anticipation. Dopamine doesn't reward progress. It rewards the possibility of progress. That's why imagining success feels so good. And that's why starting something new feels easier than continuing it. Most people don't understand. Once the task becomes familiar, once the novelty wears off, once the outcome feels distant instead of exciting, dopamine drops. And when dopamine drops, motivation disappears. Not because you're lazy, not because you lack willpower, but because your brain has shifted back into efficiency mode. In America, productivity culture often ignores this reality. We celebrate intensity. We praise hustle. We admire people who grind non-stop. But intensity is not sustainable. Focus is. Focus comes from a completely different psychological system. Motivation is emotional. Focus is cognitive. Motivation says, I feel like doing this. Focus says, this is what I do. That difference changes everything. Let's look at a real-life example most people recognize. Think about students in the United States preparing for major exams. The students who rely on motivation study hard in bursts. They wait for the right mood. They push intensely, then burn out. The students who rely on focus do something quieter. They study at the same time, in the same place, with the same structure. They don't feel inspired every day. They don't need to. Because focus doesn't depend on how you feel. It depends on what your brain expects. In psychology, this is called cognitive automation. When a behavior is repeated in a stable context, the brain stops negotiating. It stops asking, should I do this? It simply does it. That's why habits feel easier over time. Not because they require less effort, but because they require less decision-making. Motivation demands a decision every day. Focus removes the decision entirely. Now let's talk about work culture. In Silicon Valley, there's a myth that the most successful people are endlessly motivated. But if you study founders and engineers closely, you see something different. They're not emotional about their work. They're structured. They protect deep focus time. They reduce distractions. They design their environments so focus is easier than avoidance. That's not motivation. That's psychological leverage. A case study that makes this clear. A mid-level manager in Chicago wanted to improve his productivity. He kept trying motivation techniques, affirmations, vision boards, inspirational podcasts. They worked for a few days, then nothing. Eventually, he did something boring but powerful. He blocked the same 90-minute window every morning. No meetings, no email, no decisions. At first, it felt uncomfortable. His brain resisted. But after a few weeks, something shifted. He didn't need to hype himself up anymore. The time itself triggered focus. This is called context-dependent focus. Your brain associates certain environments and times with certain behaviors. Just like your bed triggers sleep, a consistent work ritual triggers focus. Motivation is loud. Focus is quiet. Motivation relies on the future. Focus lives in the present. When you rely on motivation, you're constantly thinking about outcomes, results, rewards, validation. That creates pressure, and pressure activates the brain's threat system. The more you care emotionally about the outcome, the harder it becomes to focus. That's why procrastination increases when something matters deeply. Focus works differently. It narrows attention to the next small action, not the whole journey, not the final result. In psychology, this is attentional anchoring. When attention is anchored to process, anxiety decreases. When attention is anchored to outcome, avoidance increases. This explains why artists, writers, and athletes often perform best when they stop chasing motivation and start respecting routines. A professional basketball player in the United States doesn't wait to feel motivated before training. They show up because that's who they are. Identity replaces emotion. When you rely on motivation, your identity stays fragile. I work when I feel like it. I'm productive when I'm inspired. But when you rely on focus, identity stabilizes. I'm someone who shows up. I'm someone who works even when it's quiet. Here's how mindset rewiring actually works. You stop asking, "How do I feel today?" and start asking, "What does this hour require?" You design your environment to support focus instead of testing your willpower. You reduce choices. You repeat structures. You accept boredom as part of progress. This is not punishment. It's freedom. Because once focus is automatic, effort feels lighter. Over time, something surprising happens. Motivation comes back, but differently. Not as hype, not as excitement, as calm confidence. You trust yourself again. Not because you feel driven, but because you've proven you don't need to. And that changes how you see yourself. You stop identifying as someone who tries. You become someone who does. In a culture like America's, where noise is constant and attention is fragmented, focus becomes a quiet advantage. Not flashy, not dramatic, just consistent. And consistency compounds. In the end, motivation was never meant to last. It was meant to start things. Focus is what finishes them. So the next time motivation fades, don't panic. Don't judge yourself. Don't start over. Just return to the structure you trust. Because clarity doesn't shout, it whispers. And when you learn to listen to it, progress becomes steady, calm, and real. If this changed the way you think, like the video and subscribe for more psychology understanding.